Hello and welcome to July's edition of the Crafted Briefing. Really pleased that so many of you have signed up and are here with us today. As is customary, the briefing is being recorded, so therefore we will be sending this out to everybody. So if you need to step out for whatever reason, fire alarm or otherwise, please do be assured that this will be followed up, and obviously you can then watch it, distribute it amongst your internal team as well. And if there's any topics that, as I go through them or the team go through them today, you just put a question in the Q&A and the client teams will follow up with you afterwards. Today, the format is going to be slightly different. I've got three of my colleagues joining me on today's briefing. The first, Tom, is going to cover off Google Marketing Live. Now, this is Google's annual announcement of the areas that it's focusing on at the moment, new product launches, particularly in the search and advertising space. And then we have Georgie and Russ from our Search Strategy team that are going to talk about the proliferation of ways people are discovering brands, discovering pieces of information, whether that's on ChatGPT and LLMs and AI, through to social. So they're going to be joining me later. First of all, I just wanted to cover off the topic of online security. Now, this topic for anybody in our industry has been one that has been on all of our radars for quite a long time. Probably never more so in the last sort of 3 to 6 months has there been quite the number of high profile incidents. So whether that is M&S that had to cease all of their online ordering, whether it's the Co-op that had an issue that got to the point that they weren't stocking food in their shops because it affected their supply chain ordering, through to areas where somebody might have lost customer data and having to comms to those customers to say you might get fake comms from us that are trying to steal other bits of your information. And one thing here is that these incidents affect us as in the digital world. So not only does it mean that we quite rightly need to be much more careful and just increasingly careful about how we govern the use of data and the connections and systems that we have, but also the robustness of the testing of that, whether that's penetration testing, red team testing, that means that we are giving the least possible opportunity to somebody who might want to do harm. Sometimes the harm that they're doing is not always to denigrate system, to push you back. Sometimes it's almost got a level of mischievousness to be able to deface a website, post things on it that embarrasses more than it necessarily harms. Now, these examples are just as valid and still come from the same place. And one of the things that is undoubted is that this is an issue that has been around for as long as the internet, but that cadence is increasing, and certainly the visibility and the awareness of issues. So from the business point of view, those cybercrimes actually have issues of productivity, issues potentially of revenue, issues potentially of losing money because of fake bank transfers, etc. So from the user's point of view, we're thinking, but also from you as organizations and enterprises, how could this affect you? Now, there are a range of things that you can do. Now, some of them, agencies and organizations such as ourselves, things like ISO, Cyber Essentials, they are proving to your clients, your users, that you have got certain levels of controls in place, such as we do for our clients. That means that whether that's your password policy, how you encrypt sensitive data, what your governance is around cyber and cyber data and cybersecurity. There are others such as NIST, which is more of a US based, but is a very similar approach of these are the best practices. If you work in any kind of medium to large organization, these are the sorts of things that you're probably very aware of. What we're finding is that actually, whereas before hacking was more seen as somebody who was, deeply getting into back-end systems and, using password hacks, increasingly an awful lot of these issues and these incidents are caused by somebody opening an email attachment that they shouldn't do. Social engineering of getting one person's credentials that allows them into a system that they can then escalate their privileges in order to get access to more things. And the vast majority, not all of them, but the vast majority actually start with a failure of a human in that process to not understand the threat profile, not understand what they might be being asked to do, being hurried, socially engineered into doing something. And the impact, such as, M&S even talking about it in their reports to the financial markets, are significant and far-reaching. So in terms of this is obviously something that everybody's aware of, but it's really a case of within the digital sphere, this is a topic that's only getting increasing visibility and scrutiny of what is the security stance of your suppliers such as us, and obviously from our point of view, what we have already and historically for many years, but increasingly put in place to allow that to prevent that from happening. I'm now going to pass over to my colleague Tom Preston. He's going to cover off Google Marketing Live.
As a Google Premier Partner, Crafted, we're privileged to be invited to Google's flagship annual conference, Google Marketing Live EMEA. Hosted alongside its counterpart in the US, over 2 days we were given a front row seat to Google's ambitions and focus areas for the coming months and beyond, and given access to smaller talks and breakout sessions that put us in the room with their product and data experts. We left the event with a sense of Google's direction for the second half of 2025 and energised with ideas to build on when we returned. Over the next few minutes, I'd like to share some of the highlights with you all and my own take on what they mean for the future of Google advertising. Early in the keynote, the spotlight was on PowerPack, Google's latest concept for its core and up-and-coming advertising products. 2 of the 3, Performance Max and Demand Gen, are not new but undergoing rapid evolution. The event saw the launch of channel-level reporting for PMax, something advertisers have been crying out for. AI Max for search campaigns is the new one of the bunch and launched in early May, not long before GML. Not a distinct campaign type like the others, AI Max is more of a feature set that can be applied to standard search campaigns. Effectively, it'll allow Google to reference everything in your Google Ads account, including landing page content and ad copy, to answer a broader range of queries and to deliver a greater breadth of ad creative when it does so. I found this feature made a lot of sense in the context of the Google Marketing Live program this year. Their wider narrative was strongly about the transition to AI-enabled search results like AI Overview and new conversational interfaces such as AI Mode. Together with PMax and Demand Gen, AI Max for Search will help advertisers build campaigns that work well with this new breed of search, maximising the resources that Gemini can use to provide useful results to complex conversational queries. Google are already working to incorporate ads into AI Overview. In the example shown, Google's taken the apparently non-commercial query, how to bring small dogs on flights, and has understood that product listings for pet carriers are relevant alongside travel tips and airline regulations. They announced at the GML keynote that in the US, these ads have been moved from a closed beta to a countrywide rollout, extending to other English-speaking countries later this year. So expect to see them coming to your Google search results soon. All AI campaign types involve losing an element of direct control, and instead they require us to provide the raw materials and trust the AI to make good decisions. This means that a subtle change to what makes an effective creative approach, moving from building highly curated static ads, providing assets that can be repurposed in various ways and work well in any combination. A great example of this is the new merchant brand profile feature. Traditionally, Google Shopping results are populated solely by merchant-centered product feeds, but this new feature is a hub for your brand's unique identity, with the ability to add lifestyle image assets, upload videos, edit business descriptions, even allow additional content to be pulled through from your website. All of it allows a richer ad experience than ever before. With changes in search behaviours driven by AI, Google stressed the benefits of expanding beyond their search-based products. Product discovery is already fragmented across multiple channels, including social networks, and if search journeys become more precise thanks to AI, other Google products, such as YouTube, have a greater role to play in awareness and consideration. Again, the pace of change is rapid for this channel, with several updates announced at GML. One standout fact for me was that when interviewed on stage, the Chief Strategy Officer for MrBeast revealed that over half their viewers watch their content on TV screens. Reflecting this, many of the announced YouTube developments are aimed at connected TV, helping advertisers take advantage of this behaviour and helping YouTube to better compete with traditional TV when it comes to delivering high-impact creative. Announced on stage were plans to build checkout functionality into YouTube and YouTube Shorts, and the ability to see a YouTube ad on connected TV and then convert on your phone. all designed to break down barriers between seeing a big screen video ad and then taking action to convert. On day 2, I also joined a breakout session where new and upcoming YouTube ad formats were discussed for CTV. These include pause ads, YouTube peak points, and immersive ads that play behind the YouTube homepage on TVs. Pause ads can be a great way to bridge the gap between devices. The example shown here uses a QR code to continue the user journey on a mobile without interrupting the viewer experience. Peak points will be particularly interesting to see in practice, as they use AI to decide when to insert ads for maximum impact, like just after a goal scored in a sports match. A challenge that our clients often face is the creation of quality video content that's suitable for CTV advertising and for other channels. As we've also seen with their social network competitors such as Meta and TikTok, Google are eager to break down barriers in this area, and they revealed tools to help advertisers of all sizes. Asset Studio was announced to help brands maximise the potential of their existing image and video assets. This new AI tool will create new variations of your core creative, for example, turning product stills into videos or expanding videos to fit new ratios and formats. Google also launched a Creator Partnership Hub for YouTube, a new marketplace to find new video creators to partner with and even search for and use existing creator content that mentions your brand. Taking this even further was an expansion of the YouTube Insights Finder tool. As well as accessing data on creator engagement and trending content on the platform, you can use this tool as an effective social listening device. Social platforms are always a great place to go to understand what users truly think, and YouTube comments and interactions are no exception, with measures of average viewer sentiment, common themes mentioned, and reactions to your creative approach, all helping us to double down on what works. But what if you need to build your own creative assets from scratch? Google's AI video creator Veo is one solution, and they showed off version 3 with a Sprint Sports ad created for Montclair, solely using AI. Pretty impressive. My final thought from the event is that adoption of many of these new features involves an amount of bravery and a willingness to test. Google addressed this directly with a fascinating session on unlocking AI transformation. In it, they encouraged agencies and advertisers to not be motivated to adopt AI by a fear of missing out or fear of messing up, but by a positive FOMA mindset, focus on maximising advantages. Essentially, organisations should approach AI adoption with strategic intent and a focus on the potential benefits, and individuals should embrace uncertainty and see AI as a partner, not a threat. My favourite thought from the session was to create open, judgment-free spaces for staff to share their AI experiences and to discuss failure as well as success, something I'm keen to move forward with at Crafted. Those are the big stories from the advertising side of Google, but what's happening in the world of organic search? The other day, our team caught up with Russ and Georgie as they sat down to discuss the past, present and future of the search landscape.
Hi everyone, thank you for joining us. Today we're just going to spend a little bit of time talking about what SEO isn't anymore, what it is now and what it could be in the future. We're not going to go into kind of a lot of technical detail today, but we're going to talk about the things that we see on a day-to-day basis and those things that we think are really important considerations moving forward so that our clients can stay as competitive as possible. So to start with, we're going to talk about what SEO isn't anymore. And I know, Russ, this is something you're very passionate about.
Absolutely, George.
So I'll let you take it away.
Thanks for that, mate. As Georgie said, we're in a different world now, and we're moving into that different world more quickly as each day goes by. But there are 4 fundamentals of what used to be SEO that we really think aren't SEO anymore. And the first one of those really is talking about keywords all the time, and we're focusing on, do we rank for a particular keyword, whereas we're now in a world where it's more conversational search and there's more authenticity needed. So keywords, while they're still important, they're not that thing to hang your hat on. Mm-hmm. In a similar vein, the content that we create is historically has been very almost formulaic and prescriptive, and the world of creating content in that way has been probably usurped by the AI models and AI churning out content. So being able to create authoritative or authentic, unique, user-focused content will be the way forward. Mm-hmm. And equally, in a similar respect, chasing rankings and saying to your team and to clients that we rank position 1 for a keyword, that's all very... That's still a meaningful metric, obviously, but it's not the be-all and end-all of what SEO is. And I think we need to leave that behind now and start focusing more on overall visibility and things like that. And then finally, really, in terms of what SEO isn't anymore, it isn't just about Google anymore. Yeah, it's about people search in various different ways, and the AI models are getting better and better and better at being able to return answers for searches. So Google's still the dominant force, and it would be wrong to say ignore Google, because they're obviously part of the equation. But they've seen their share of search drop below 90% in the last 6 months. So we are seeing a shift, and I think we need to think about search everywhere, as it were, rather than just on Google. So they're really the 4 things that I think are things that SEO isn't anymore. So where do you think we are in terms of where we're at today?
I think for me, we talk about a lot about the technology and change, but actually the fundamentals are you still need to have really strong SEO in essence. There was a study carried out by, I believe it was Spotify and DemandSphere. So they looked at 120,000 different search queries and AI overview results for them. And what they actually found that of those AI overview results, most of them came from, I think it was 3/4 of them, in fact, came from the top 12 organic listings. So that just really serves to illustrate how important traditional SEO is.
Yeah, absolutely.
And further to that, I think, from a technical point of view, you still need to ensure that users, search engines, as well as LLMs can reach your site, navigate through it, understand your content, and do that in an efficient and quick way. So, that's also incredibly important still. And now also, I'm sure we've all had experience of this, but, AI overviews are spammable, and they do hallucinate. So we do often find that actually the results we get are not necessarily correct. And of course, that then builds a level of distrust amongst users. I think one thing to kind of bear in mind is that, AIs have probably never been so powerful, but equally they'll probably never be as bad as they are today.
Yeah, I heard an interesting theory on that yesterday where somebody mentioned to me that AI search is increasing, but Google has also seen its search numbers go up.
Yeah.
And this guy I was talking about the fact that the reason Google search numbers are going up is because people are getting an AI result and then going to Google to check whether it's right. So there's still AI's not as, it's better than it always has been, but as you rightly say, it's not as good as it will be.
Yeah, definitely. And then I think the other thing is brand. I think, historically from an SEO point of view, we've almost kind of looked at, well, brand will look after itself because, you're going to be ranking number 1 thereabouts for most of your brand searches. Yes, you could look at your wider footprint, but generally speaking, it's something that we've kind of thought for the most part will look after itself. But actually looking kind of from more of a multi-channel kind of point of view, so building up kind of strong brand awareness and demand across lots of different platforms, that's a really strong brand signal that feeds in both to Google as well as the AI platforms also. So I think ensuring that you're doing that across multiple different channels and across the kind of wider ecosystem is also really, really important. Also, I think another sort of key thing for me is in terms of relevancy of your content. So relevancy and kind of expertise of your content. So ensuring that if you're talking about a topic, then you're doing so in a really in-depth way and you're providing sort of consistently relevant, in-depth expert content on that topic on your site. Because again, for both Google search engines as well as the AI platforms also, that's another key thing, that kind of content that has really strong kind of topical relevancy, authority and expertise is something that they go to and they will serve a lot. So I think that continues to be really, really important.
Yeah, that's something I want to touch on a little bit later when we talk about where we're going with SEO, because that authenticity, expertise and authority, they're clearly going to be more and more important as we move into this new world. So yeah, really agree with that.
Yeah, definitely. And then I think also another key thing for me and really, really important is having well-structured content. So, content that's well-structured, that places the user first, and that clearly matches, intent correctly. I think for businesses, what's really key is to stop, if you can, thinking about keywords and search queries and think about your target audience. What kind of conversations they have, how do they actually talk, and reflecting that in your content. So, what kind of things are important to your customers? what kind of conversations they're having, what kind of challenges would they consider, all of those kind of things, or your clients, and feeding that into your content as well. I think, where we are now, it's just really important to ensure that you've got well-structured content that aptly kind of addresses your customers' needs and talks to them in a way that understands them, and equally that can also kind of present or allow you to present kind of your own kind of unique views and insights as well. So it's kind of authentic, allows you to kind of share things that give you almost a bit of a unique voice in the world of search.
Yeah, it's almost storytelling. I mean, we're talking about it in terms of storytelling, and it goes back to the prescriptive content element that I spoke about earlier, where a lot of content's already been done.
Yeah,
if we're honest, and a lot of stuff is being regurgitated, and so that those days are behind us, and I think we're moving into a world where that authenticity, expertise, and what the user wants and the language they're using. So obvious. Feels a bit obvious, doesn't it?
It does, but I think it's one of those things. It's worth reiterating, and because it is used by search and it is used by the large language models, but also ensuring, as we've kind of touched on already, that you're not just focusing on your website, you're focusing on all the different platforms, within the ecosystem. So, whether that's looking at things like YouTube, etc., but you're making sure that you're making your voice heard, and you're doing it in a way that's really targeted to your customer base, that is your own authentic, unique voice, and kind of, really sort of spreading that as far and wide as possible throughout the ecosystem. So that's a kind of summary of what I think SEO is, or organic discovery, as I think it's becoming. I suppose the next question is the $1 million, what is SEO becoming, or what could it become? Yeah,
I think obviously we don't know that, because if we did, we probably wouldn't be sitting here.
No, we'd be on a beach, we'd be on a beach. Barbados or something.
But there are signals of what SEO now that leads us into where it's going in the future, and there's an awful lot of discussion around. So in terms of how do you see, what are the 3 or 4 main things that you see initially that will be the future of organic discovery?
I think for me, the thing that we're seeing, and I think it's going to continue to kind of evolve and grow, is a world of zero click, basically. So a study carried out by SparkToro, where they looked at organic searches, and then a proportion of those searches that resulted in clicks. And from that, they found that, I believe it was in 2024, it was about just over 47%, and now by 25, it's gone down to 44%. So it's just showing really, as we all know, AI overviews. If a user can get the information they need within the search result, they are possibly not going to click through to your website. Now, that's not to say that having that visibility is incredibly important, and particularly if you're there over your competitors for relevant search queries, that's a massive win, and super important. And I think that point kind of leads into my kind of second point, really, which is we have relied for a very, very long time, in terms of the way that we kind of convey the value of organic search and kind of measure it from a business point of view, on metrics like rankings, like clicks, like traffic. And I think moving forward, that's just not going to be enough anymore. We need to look at things like citation count, surface visibility, output, in AI results as well, and measuring that to actually understand, what is your overall visibility. It's a much more fragmented sort of AI-driven ecosystem than it was before, and things like clicks just don't cover a lot of that. So that, I think, is really, really important as well. And I think that also in terms of sort of moving forward, and this is something that's happening now, but I think it will continue to kind of become more and more important, is a focus on passage level optimization rather than just page level optimization. So within that, what will be really key is ensuring that it's not just about the page, it's about the snippets of content within the page. So when you're creating content, it's really important to make sure, again, that it's well structured, but you're also using semantic cues like tables and things like that, summaries, all of those kind of things. And again, that your content is very much focused on your user. It's very relevant to the topic. It matches intent really well. And it also is allowing you to kind of share your unique sort of authenticity and insight as a business also within that.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that it's interesting you talk about the authenticity and being focused on the user. One of the things that I think we're moving into a world of now is around user-generated content again, and YouTube in particular. And I know Tom spoke earlier about YouTube and how Google are pushing us into YouTube. So I think understanding, we spoke earlier about content not just being for Google and not just being the written word, but understanding having user-generated content strategies to provide that authenticity will be really, really important. And your YouTube strategy will be equally important. Video content's being consumed across multiple platforms. And a study done by Profound just recently, they studied 10 million AI overviews, and more than half of citations within those AI overviews from Google were from Reddit, Quora, and YouTube. Wow. So we're in a world where, and it feels like we're going back a few years, because we used to talk a lot about user-generated content, but there's definitely a world that we're moving into where platforms like Reddit and Quora and YouTube will become significant focuses for most brands. And in a similar vein, there's the author of there's authorship signals again. And again, this feels like when we first started in SEO all those years ago, authorship is something that brands need to really be leaning into now, in terms of, can you put an attributable expert against your content?
Definitely.
Particularly someone who's got a strong online presence and who can, has got good LinkedIn profiles and all that kind of stuff that builds up someone's individual profile. If you can associate them with your content, then in the eyes of both the user, it gives trust from the user, and the search engine and the LLMs will both see that they'll see this author being featured elsewhere on the web, and all those signals are combined to give your content really strong signals. So it feels like we're moving into a world that's both going forward, but also looking back a little bit. So
100%.
I don't know if there's anything else that you think I think we've kind of, the key themes here around authenticity, structure, making sure your SEO is good. So that feels like a good place to maybe leave it and have a bit of a wrap up now.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the other thing is, with all of this is, we know that AI is, progressing at a rapid pace kind of thing. And we often focus on the technology and, now there's another platform, now there's this, etc. But actually the really key thing with all of this is that the kind of shift in terms of how people actually adopt and use AI is going to be a cultural one. That's not about the technology. 100%. And it will be something that will take time and won't necessarily be, at the same rate as the technology is advancing. I think, in summary, as you say, Russ, I think it's a focus on ensuring that you are, focused on your user, you are writing content or producing content that is authoritative, that, is focused on your topic, that is, adaptable as well for all of the different AI platforms and different surfaces, that you can be served on. But also it's just really key not to focus just on clicks anymore. It's about citations, it's about being surfaced. And actually, I think this is a really fantastic opportunity to say, we have SEO here and what we've traditionally seen as organic search. And actually what these platforms allow us to do is have an even more sort of broader world of organic discovery, in which case your website can be seen, information that you can provide to clients, customers, etc., can be found and seen, and you can reach them in new ways. So, I think it's a very interesting time.
Exciting times, yeah. Good time to be in SEO. Thanks, George.
Thanks, Russ. And I think just to say as well, if we have, if anybody would like to have a chat with us in terms of, what we're doing and the approaches we're taking, and how we're kind of working with our clients to adapt strategies, moving forward within the changing world that we're currently working within, then we'd be more than happy to have those conversations.
Thanks to the guest speakers today. If there are any questions that come out of any of the topics that we've covered in this briefing, please do get in touch with your account teams here at Crafted. If not, we'll be following up after this with the recording that you'll be able to obviously go back and review. We really look forward to seeing you at the next one just after the summer. I hope you have a good time. Bye.